So welcome everyone to IMC, and for those of you online who are also attending, welcome. And I think it's my pleasure to talk about mindful speaking. One of the joys of this work that I do is when people come to me and say, well, this mindfulness meditation is good, but how do we apply it to life? How do I integrate it into the rest of my life, not just in meditation? And one of the really significant ways is to practice mindful speaking. And in fact, I think that mindful speaking is just mindfulness out loud. If you practice mindfulness by yourself internally, you're just recognizing what's really happening there in a truthful way, and learning to tell yourself or recognize it, what's happening, not only truthfully what's happening internally, but also beginning to recognize it in a way that's useful, beneficial, it benefits you, to recognize it in a way that's kind, that's supportive of you. It's certainly possible to know what's going on inside and treat it as bad and unwelcome news, and one more reason to be critical of yourself. Mindfulness is turning that around and using mindfulness as a way to start having a positive relationship with oneself, so that something different can happen that couldn't happen if we're critical, angry, upset, we're caught in greed and all kinds of things. So the same thing in our external world. We're learning how to be mindful out loud. One of the reasons why mindfulness of speaking is so useful is it's useful to understand yourself better. It's a way of looking and understanding, tracking what you're saying and why you say it. Many people speak without really much care to what they say. There's a kind of a little quote that goes around sometimes that says that many people take more care in how they dress than what they say. But what we say has a much bigger impact on our life and our communal life than how we dress. And so to start seeing, what am I doing here when I speak? What motivates it? Why am I saying what I'm about to say? It creates a tremendous useful window into your inner life. Why am I saying this? Really? Is that the reason? So you might say, well, the person asked me a question, so I'm just going to, I'm just answering the question. That's why. But then if you look more deeply, well, I want the person to like me. I want the person to see that I'm knowledgeable and I know how to, and there's all these different motivations that are operating at the same time. And so to stop and have the ability to take a deeper look, to track what's going on as it's going on. Another area that mindful speaking is useful is that if you pace your day, so that you'd go about the day at the speed of mindful speaking. How fast would you do things? How fast would you speak? Maybe you want to speak fast and furiously, but if you want to bring mindfulness into your life, then you might want to consider the speed in which you speak. And any speed is fine for mindfulness practice, provided you can track it while you're saying it. You can track it before you say it. You're kind of tracking, the impulses, what's inside of you, and you can kind of then live more wisely. So there's a lot of self-understanding, a lot of development and growth of mindfulness that happens if we begin practicing it in our social life, communal life, around mindfulness of speaking. Another reason for mindfulness of speech is so that we can create good relationships with people around us, with the world, so that we can create a better world. Because speech has a big impact on other people, on ourselves, the world we live in. And rather than creating more animosity, more hurt, more conflict, Can we speak in a way that does the opposite? That creates more concord, it creates more friendship, that creates more healing in this world, more unity rather than divisiveness. And so if you're able to track your speech, then you can kind of begin seeing, is this really what I want to say? Is this the best way of saying it? Is there a better way of saying it? So in the Buddhist tradition, there are guidelines or signposts, maybe, that are presented, offered, to track what you're saying and the questions to ask yourself. And this could be as you're speaking, but maybe a place where it can be even harder to do this than in speaking is in emails or texting or something, where it doesn't have to be as quick. Socially, too long periods of silence are kind of awkward, but to be silent for 10 minutes, not respond right away. It's not such a big deal to take a little bit of a while, maybe even to compose something and not send it and say, come back 5 minutes later. Is this what I want to do? What's the impact? What does this express here? And then you can ask yourself these questions. Is it at the right time to communicate it? Is it timely? Is it truthful? Does it express the truth? Is it beneficial to say what I'm about to say, to write what I'm about to write? And is it kind? Does it come from a place of goodwill? There's sometimes a fifth one that's offered, and that is, I don't know if I really know what the Pali word means, but some translators translate it as gentle. It's possible it means beautiful. It's possible it means polite. But in the most common translations, is it gentle speech? Is it polite speech? Is it? So the first one, is it timely? Is it the right time for something? And that goes, for me, very closely connected to this idea of, is it effective? Is it useful to say what I'm going to do? Because some things are important to say, but the timing of when you say it is really important. People might not be ready to hear it. They might not be able to process it and respond to it. If you say it, turning your head as you leave, hey, by the way, and then you're running to catch the bus or something. There's no processing. There's no chance to kind of work with it and interact with it and clarify it or hear their response or see what the response is. So is it the right time to say something? I receive emails sometimes that maybe it was, in some ways, maybe it was not the right time, because email is not a good way to communicate the nuance of attitude and emotions that's behind what's being said. And I've kind of misread an emotion, either didn't see the emotion in it or saw emotions that weren't there. So is this the right time to communicate what I want to communicate? Maybe a phone call is better. Maybe there's another way. Maybe wait. There are some times that I have waited a long time to have an important conversation with someone because I felt that they were closed to having it. And it didn't make any sense I had every right to say something, you would think. But being right doesn't mean it's going to work. And so, is it the right time? So to ask yourself that question. And that's a difficult question to ask for some of us, because the impulse to speech can be quite strong. And where I see it is when I'm ready to speak before a person has stopped speaking. I don't know if any of you have that issue. Sometimes, I'm not just like, just can't wait. And sometimes I don't, in a social conversation or something, I don't really hear the second half of what they're saying, because in my mind, I'm telling them what I feel is important to say. And so to take time, listen. So then, so that's one question, slows you down. Just ask the question, is this the right time? The second is it the truth? And that has a multi-layered kind of analysis consideration. What is the truth? Is how you feel the truth? Maybe it's true as a feeling, but maybe it's not true as a judgment. And that line between an emotion, a feeling we have, and it being the truth about a situation out there, the lens through which we see it, is a kind of ambiguous world. And sometimes what we say, we're saying what's true. I feel that you're awful. That was a true statement, right? I had this feeling, but actually it's a judgment. And maybe it's welling up quite powerfully as a powerful impulse inside. Something's really uncomfortable or strong inside. But, it'd be very careful what we say. Is it really true? What might be more true is say, hearing what you have to say, I'm feeling quite uncomfortable. I feel unsettled now. I wonder if we can talk about it. That's getting closer to the truth. But then you ask the question, is it timely to say that? If you, maybe not. Maybe some people, just they hear that you're uncomfortable, makes them so uncomfortable they shut down. Or so uncomfortable they leave, they don't want to, they don't want to bother. Or they can't. Is it true? Is all truth right to say? Some people feel that they're justified to say something if it's true. But that's the next guideline, is that is it beneficial? Does it benefit? Is it useful? Is it strategic? Is it effective? And so, I've thought about this sometimes in political discourse. People can be right, maybe. They believe they're right. They have a right to say what they're going to say. They have justice on their side. So of course they should speak up. But is it effective? What's the impact it's going to have? Is it beneficial, the impact? And a lot of political discourse in all kinds of directions, people feel it's true. They feel it's just to say it. But it's received in a way that actually is counterproductive. And you might, be yelling and screaming and because feeling you have every right to say something. And maybe you do. But the question is it effective? Is it beneficial? And then you can ask yourself your question, beneficial in what way? How are you trying to benefit from the situation? If it's simply to make yourself safe, that's certainly sometimes important to do. But is that the only thing that's necessary to do or important to do? What about the relationship you have with the other person? How about, can you create a friendly relationship, a mutually supportive relationship? And so then the other guideline is that, is there metta, is there goodwill in the communication we have? And and goodwill means that we also care about the other person's welfare. We want them to be happy. And that's a high bar, because they don't deserve it. They've disrespected me. They're in the wrong. They really messed up and caused a lot of trouble. And they were mean. So of course they were so mean. They don't deserve any goodness from me. They've now forfeited all rights to receive anything good from me. And I'm going to give them a piece of my mind. People don't think that way, I don't think. But sometimes they operate that way because we don't stop to look at and think, what are we doing here? What's going on here? The impulse to speak sometimes is so strong and unexamined. So the Buddha keeps emphasizing, examine what's going on when you speak. Look at it. And so can you have goodwill? Can you aim to create a healthy relationship here? Can you somehow break through the meanness or the closeness or the hostility that might be here? It's not an easy thing to do, but maybe it's better than making the situation worse. Sometimes the best way to deal with all these criteria, somehow to cope with them, is not speak. Just be silent. And one of the guidelines is, if speaking is going to make it worse, maybe don't say anything. Some people will protest, but you have to speak. You have to fight for the good cause. You have to set things right. You have to. But maybe if you're making the situation worse, maybe don't speak. Maybe wait. And this is where mindfulness of speaking comes into play in big time. The mindful speaking also means knowing how to speak at the right time, the first criteria, which might mean after you've paused for a while, after you've been silent for a while, after you say, can I take a breath or two? Can we pause? That was a big impact on me. Before I speak, can we just take 3 breaths together? Or can I take 3 breaths? And then I'll try to respond. Just some kind of pause. And I've done that in difficult conversations with people where I was triggered. And I thought to myself, Gil, right now you're not going to say good things. You're not capable of it. And I asked permission. I say of the person I'm having this very difficult conversation with, this is difficult, and could we pause for a while? Can we just sit here and breathe for a little bit? And last time this happened, the person was very gracious and said yes. I think the person trusted me with that. Maybe thought they were going to be treated better. And so I took about 2 minutes, 3 minutes to get my breath back, get my senses back, and then I could continue the conversation. But the state I was in, it was not going to work. So sometimes not speaking. And then can we speak with goodwill? Can we care about the other person's welfare as well? And one reflection I do sometimes is that when someone is hostile, mean, they're hurting, chances are that their meanness and hostility represents some suffering they have. Does that justify that they're mean or hostile? No. But to know that means, oh, they're hurting. Of course I want to care for them. They're hurting. I don't want to make it worse. Can we find another way to have this conversation? Can we talk in a way that fosters some kind of mutual understanding, some kind of mutual care for each other, some kind of friendship for each other? And then the last criteria is to be gentle, or to have beautiful speech, kind speech. And I've said it already, but beautiful speech, polite speech. Some people say this is the opposite of harsh speech. So I don't know what you think the opposite of harsh speech is. But harsh speech is speech which, just the tone of it is harmful. So can you do a tone of voice which makes space for people, that is not domineering, not filling the space, but makes room for a dialogue to go on. So of course you don't have to do any of this if you don't want. But if you have the question, how do I bring my mindfulness practice into my social life, my community life? This is a really effective way. It's not easy for most people. For some people it seems like mindfulness of speaking is the most difficult area of life to be mindful in. Because when we're talking, we get pulled into our concerns, our emotional life, our impulses, our desires. There's such a complex world that we get pulled into, that the relationship to other people, that sometimes we're not really tracking ourselves very well. But the benefits of doing it are immense, huge. We learn about ourselves, we learn how to stay balanced in ourselves, stay healthy in ourselves, stay closer to a place of well-being. We don't give up on ourselves when you're mindful of speaking, tracking it. And we create better relationships in the world. Relationships then which are that have a feedback loop where they come back to benefit us. The more we can develop friendly relationships with other people, the more that we can I had a conversation recently with this person who many years ago, I had that difficult conversation where I had to ask, can we pause? And I was pretty angry. So, it was kind of a difficult time. And she said, Gil, you've always been so supportive of me and so accepting of me, and I just feel your love for me. And I said, but we had that time. And she said, yeah, that didn't matter. Your good intent was there. So anyway, so somehow, that relationship continued and is now a warm, friendly relationship in a nice way. So mindfulness of speaking. So that's the topic. And so now you get to practice it. So for those of you who want to stay, those of you who don't want to stay and don't want to be part of this, can just sit quietly and or get some water and just hang out until we come back. But the invitation is for you to go into the small groups of maybe 3 people, and just look around you when you make your groups, so no one's end up left alone. Because sometimes everyone goes to to their left and their right, and then they're just sitting there and so everyone look make sure everyone's included, and then maybe you could offer some words of your own experience or inspiration for mindful speaking. What have you learned so far? Or in what way are you inspired by these words today or other ways to find a way to be attentive, more carefully attentive, more deeply attentive to speaking as you speak? Okay? So we'll do that for about 10 minutes, and then we'll ring a bell and we'll come back as a group as a whole and have a few more words in here, and then we'll stop in time for the potluck. So, thank you. Please. So, how much mindfulness was there of speech? It's possible to talk about mindful speaking and not be mindful while you're doing it. But it was very nice. It felt like a nice, happy set of conversations to witness from here, this place. Any questions or comments about this topic? Yes, so if you could use the mic. It's just that the people online can't hear.
I have a question. We were talking about feeling the need to feel the silence in conversations, because I feel the need to do that, like I'm doing right now.
Hold it closer.
But so I feel like I can be. Oh yeah. I can be mindful, but it those awkward silences and pauses in conversations are where I have trouble, taking a step back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So some people are not. A lot of people are not comfortable with silences, and so you might have to contextualize it for people. You say, we've been talking for a while now, and I need to get my bearings. I wonder, can we be quiet for a little bit, or can I excuse myself for a moment? Or the really sly thing to do is to say, excuse me, I need to go to the bathroom. And no one's going to ask you what you're doing there. And the reason you need to go to the bathroom is you want to pause in the conversation, and then you've gotten a free pass to have 2, 3 minutes, 5 minutes alone to process. So no, it is hard in these conversations.
Yeah. Okay.
And also, it depends on where you do the conversations also. Um, Sometimes if you invite the person to go for a walk with you, sometimes in walking it's easier to have longer pauses than if you're sitting kind of facing each other or something.
Yeah, I'm thinking like the context of like a new social environment where you feel pressure to speak to somebody you don't know.
Yeah.
And
Could you hold the mic up?
Yeah.
oh, sorry, I'm doing it again. I'm feeling in the context of that environment, I will go into those situations and be like anxious and then probably say too much or like overshare because I'm filling this space.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, I don't know what to suggest. I mean, it's a social world. It's a difficult world to be in. So it's not an easy to say this is what you can do. And the expectations and the cultures can be so different. And people are anxious. Everyone's nervous. So everyone's trying to cope. So it's hard to know. But there's a few things that sometimes are helpful. And that is show an interest in them. And so you can be quiet because you've asked them questions and they're talking, and people appreciate your interest, and then you're kind of off the hook for a little while, so you can kind of process and maybe as you're listening to them perhaps, and then there's also active listening, where you not only ask them questions but you also affirm what they're saying, or you kind of just say something like, "Oh, so you're new here," something, or how, So there's things you can say that might slow the conversation down, so that you're not on the center stage, like you feel like you have to say something that about yourself or something wise. Just ask them.
Yeah.
That can help.
Yeah, that did help. Thank you.
Thanks, Gil. It's great and smooth when you talk. It's easy that it will work, but in reality, when it comes to family, it never works. So, right, I think for me, what somebody's working is just accepting them, and
Is what?
just accepting the way they are, right? With family, with friends, and everything else is so easy.
Yeah, yeah.
Just accepting, and then not thinking about myself too much. It's like, oh my God, Gil said this, and I think that helps. But the relationship does change. There's nothing I can do about it. So I don't know if you have to say something.
Sounds like you're finding your way with your family, how to be with them.
The relationship changes, even if I'm quiet, right?
Yeah,
So.
yeah. I don't feel like I can really say anything, because every family is going to have very different dynamics and different capacities, and so you're working with it for a while, so you know it, and it sounds like you're finding your way. But you might, for yourself internally, ask yourself those questions. Is this the time to bring something up? Because imagine sometimes you bring it up, and is this the time? Is this effective? Or is this going to be useful to say this now? And is there a better, more useful time or a more useful way of saying it? So you might have more agency around when you speak and how you speak than what other people contribute and expect. So, and sometimes, you can plan what you're going to say. And, it's usually not the best not try to memorize it, but you can think it out ahead of time. So if you have kids, maybe when they're at school, think about what, how, you need to talk to them about cleaning their room. And so, when do you do that? And what's a good time to do it? And when do you think you can get their attention in a way that they really can take it in? And if I make their favorite cookie and lay it out on the kitchen table in a nice way, so they have to come and sit at the kitchen table to eat their cookie, and it might be there's a little bit of space to say something. By the way, I know I've been brought up this issue of the room, your room, but I want to let you know that it kind of hurts me to have this never taken care of. So you kind of create the conditions for the conversation that maybe is. So there's a lot of thinking ahead sometimes.
Thank you.
I mean, don't ask me these questions as if I'm the expert. Probably no one is. It's a work in progress for all of us.
My question is, how to not have a checklist approach? It's a lot of work to constantly ask these 5 questions to myself, like in every single conversation, because I've been trying to practice it for a while. And is there a simpler way, like just being with the body or being with the breath, or I don't know, like something practical?
I think that's a very good question, and the idea that being more centered in your body, mindful of your body, usually creates more space to see what's happening in the mind, see what the impulses are, and so you can be wiser about it. And just your innate wisdom might operate just fine, take care of the situation. It might also be, though, if you give some time reflecting and thinking about these 5 categories, maybe one at a time, that after a while they become second nature. And so they operate just kind of, they're not part of, you don't have to go through the list. It's just that as you give yourself more space to be present, they're kind of there in the background, and it's kind of obvious after a while that you're oriented that way.
Makes sense. Thank you.
So one more in the back.
This is kind of a follow-on on that, but I mean, I see I can resonate with the value of right speech and thinking about these things. But it also, when I think about doing it in the midst of a conversation, it feels terribly artificial. Like, am I going to?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, to slow down the conversation and say, wait, I have to go through my 5 lists, my 5 criteria. Yeah, I mean, that's kind of artificial. But as I said, these things can become second nature after a while. And so you don't have to think about them. It's just like they waft up. It's like you can see, oh, this is not kind. And it must be, probably I should be quiet until a kinder thing comes up to say. Or this is not true. Yeah. So it becomes second nature after a while, hopefully. And then, as was just said, just being grounded in your body, being centered and being present here for your own experience goes a long way to create the kind of space for kind of a natural wisdom to operate. That if we're losing ourselves in a conversation, chances are you've lost touch with your body.
Thank you.
And the body gives us a lot of information about what goes on interpersonally. The tensions in the body, the postures of the body, the agitations in the body, the warmth in the body, the softness that comes in. So a lot of different things, a lot of information there that informs us about what our relationship to what's going on. And the more we can take that in, the wiser we'll be in the conversation. Okay, well, I'm very confident that you'll have lots of opportunities to practice. And so just doing a little bit of it can go a long way. Don't tie yourself in knots by all these criteria. But just starting to open up this door of mindfulness of speaking is a powerful door. It's invaluable. And in the process, you'll learn a lot about yourself. And as you learn about yourself, you'll be wiser about the things you say, how you say it. So everyone's welcome to stay for the potluck, and whether you brought anything for it or not, it's just an excuse for us to get together and be friendly and get to know each other. So I don't know. It'll take a few minutes to do the final setup, and then there'll be some indication that we can start to serve each other and serve ourselves. And then please. I think there's a circle that's formed. Yeah, the circle's formed, and there's some blessing of the food or something that goes on. So probably in about 5 minutes or so. So in the meantime, you can talk and hang out. And thank you.